Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Steph from the Hot Moon Podcast, and today we're going to talk about Tyler Perry. Now, Tyler Perry has been very successful, especially in the Hollywood space. He has his own production company. He's grinding his way up, especially starting out doing the Medea skits and doing full-blown movies, and he owns his own studio and produces his own content out in Atlanta. He's had partnership deals with TBS. He's been very successful. He's done it the right way, done it the hard way. Really started from the ground up. Didn't really ask for handouts. Just very successful. He's a billionaire. And recently he gave a speech at the Earn Your Leisure conference. And he talks about a time that he fired his entire accounting team because he was being audited by the IRS. And, he talks about how he spent a lot of money, for these audits. And pretty much just going through his books, his balance sheets and everything like that. And comes to find out at the end of the audit, the IRS actually owed him $9 million, right? So, upon this discovery, he says that he just had to fire his whole team. And, he says that, this was a learning experience, and that, this is just a stepping stone in business and learning how to pretty much, protect yourself and know how to manage your money, but not make the same mistakes again, and I think that's important to bring up because a lot of times when we set out to do businesses, yes, our intentions are good to, start out the right way, have our books clean, or we think we have our books clean. But more importantly, if we're not really, accounting experts, tax experts, that, we hire people in place. He was smart to hire a team to handle those things, who are much more qualified to know the tax codes and to know what regulations to follow with the IRS and what they're looking for when going through an audit. So, I mean, it's smart to have people who know more than you in your camp, but it doesn't stop there though, right? Like it's we're used to, like, or if we have the means, we want to give it to the expert, let the experts handle it, right? But sometimes the experts can also make mistakes too. And it's like, well, who's auditing them as well? I don't think his team deliberately tried to get him in trouble for $9 million, or at least, get audited so much to the point where they didn't know that the IRS owes him money. But it goes to the point that, like, I think it's just, you need to know your circle, you need to know your team, and you need to make sure that the people who are on your team are really qualified and understand the tax game and IRS game. I'm glad he got his money, and I'm glad, like, it's very rare that the IRS owes you money in this rare occasion. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, he did have the people in place. He had the smart people around him, but I guess they just weren't smart enough. All these people with accounting degrees and all kinds of finance degrees thinking they know all kinds of regulations, and they don't. He was being targeted by the IRS because, listen, I'm not trying to bring up race or anything like that, but hey, here's a black man making, hundreds of millions of dollars. We need to investigate him. I don't know why they investigate him so hard. That's a question for another day. But nonetheless, he was investigated, and he was being audited and pretty much targeted, by the IRS. And, and I think it was smart to fire his team. And I think the biggest point is that even though you have people in place, no matter what your business is, I think it's important that you also need to kind of, wear a different hat occasionally. You might need to study on accounting or finances a little bit more, especially if you're making that kind of money. I'm not saying that you got to be making, Tyler Perry money, but if you're making a decent money for your own business, I think it's important to kind of do some research and understand, where you are within the tax codes and what are the IRS regulations and what are they looking for. When you submit, your applications and stuff like that to them, or when you're being audited. I don't think his team, the accounting team, tried, but at the same time, it's not a good look. You're paid professionals managing hundreds of millions of dollars, or at whatever point of his career, hundreds of millions of dollars or just millions, but still, like, if that's the case, then your sole purpose is to make sure that, your boss is happy. The guy that hired you to manage his millions doesn't owe the IRS, and he did the right thing by hiring the team, but it's like his team failed him and he fired everybody. Now, who knows if, the team he hired were minorities and he's trying to help them with, or whatever. Who knows if the accounting team was like a minority-based group and he wanted to help them and whatever. He made a joke in this conference saying that it was H&R Block. So that's another thing too. So even if you're getting your taxes done by these big companies, like they're like, you think that you're going to be safe with them, but they make mistakes too. And I really don't trust these H&R Block types. I think like finding like a independent an accountant for doing your taxes and stuff like that, or managing your books goes a little bit better, because I mean they're managing like all these people's books and stuff like that, and it just seems like it's like these cookie cutter places don't seem like they're going to really invest their time in, even with the money that you may have. That may be more than the average citizen, but no, I just thought it was a good read, and it's just kind of like a good lesson to learn that, hey, no matter how big your team is, it's still important to kind of do a self audit within your own team and make executive decisions to fire them if they need to. $9 million that the IRS owes you. Like, I mean, that's hard to, how do you fall asleep at the wheel at that, but yeah, so I thought this was a good read. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment. I'm out.